Hey everybody, how's it going this morning? Starting here, I think right on time today. What are we? We're about a minute late, so apologies for being about a minute late here today. We are going to go over today the charts and a little bit of technical analysis tools. This webinar is going to be pretty heavily based on chart functionality, and I guess we'll go over why that is, a little bit of my background here in a second. But it is going to be a little bit more heavily based on the chart functionality. We are going to go into a little bit of explanation on some of the technical indicators, but not too in depth. It is going to be a lot of how to use the Nadex charts and some of the kind of the tricks, tips. So some of the features are a little bit hidden inside the chart. So wanted to have a webinar that went over it all in depth. If any of you recognize me, you may recognize me from doing a lot of the platform webinars, and I know a lot of those usually go over quite heavily the allotted time, often because we are going over the charts. So decided to do a separate one on the charts themselves. So I'll just move forward here if my screen wants. There we go. Put a disclaimer up here for a second. Sure, general trading disclaimer you're going to see on every one of our webinars and on most of any webinars or content you're going to be consuming from any reputable trading shop. I'll give you a second to read over it. Very basically, it just says, look, trading on Nadex, just like trading everywhere, it involves risk. Any money you put up really in any form of trading in any platform, it is going to involve risking those funds, risking that capital. So you really only want to trade with what you're willing to, in the worst case scenario, lose. And only really be trading with that discretionary income. Don't want to be trading with, your rent money, your food money, any money you need for anything else in your life. Definitely only that discretionary income there. Also, I will be probably placing a couple trades on the demo platform in the demo environment here today. None of that's going to be a recommendation on anything to actually go ahead and trade. I'm going to be choosing the sides and the trades just completely randomly. So definitely don't copy what I'm doing on your live account or anything. It's just going to be to show some functionality of the platform. Maybe one more second to read through this here. I will say as well, there is a new feature we have coming soon that I'm pretty excited about. It's going to be coming around next week, and I actually will be showing you that feature a little bit at the end today. So if you want to stick around for a feature at the end here, you can definitely do that as well. My dog definitely wants attention right now. So if I look down over this way, it's because he's biting the edge of my shirt because he wants my attention. Before we get into the nitty gritty, I guess now you can see two great shots of my face on this screen. One, I got a little bit longer beard from the pandemic times. Just a little bit about me though. I've been working at Netx for since 2017, so about 4 years now. Over the last 3 years, I've worked on our platform heavily and also all of our product offerings. So that new platform, if any of you were around before we went to that, getting off that new platform, getting over to this one, that was heavily me and the team of awesome developers that work here at Nadex, and then all of the new product stuff or any product changes. That's been our team as well. So a lot of fun product stuff. And just about my trading background, been trading for about 12 years now. So basically since I turned 18, mostly in equities. Went over to equity options, and now I do a little bit more of the just kind of long-term stuff, and a little bit less active. Although I did used to do a lot more active options trading. And unfortunately, can't trade binaries on Nadex because I am an Nadex employee. All right, we'll get my face off there. So this is going to be our agenda today. This is really going to be one of the last slides that's on this the actual slides until we get over to the fun stuff, which is the platform. So we'll go over, as I said, we'll go over the kind of the explanation of the charts, technical analysis tools, all of the actual, how to use the charts, how to place things on the charts, a little bit of hidden features. I will go over a couple of the indicators. We'll go over EMA, we'll go over RSI, exponential moving average, and relative strength index. This isn't going to be a full in-depth into them, but it is going to be a nice kind of primer for using those, because I think those are two of the more popular, or at least they're two more popular ones that aren't both kind of momentum moving average sort of based indicators, right? Because you have that RSI coming in. And then the last one down there, kind of a little bit of a spoiler for a new feature coming soon. If you do want to stick around to the end, I will be going over a feature that we've been working on that is quite cool and I'm very excited for. And that's going to be the ROI calculation and in the money probability calculations that we will be adding. If knock on wood, if all goes correct, should be adding, I think, to the demo account next week and then the live account most likely the week after. Don't hold me fast and true to that, but we are very, very close to actually adding that to the live account there. So very cool stuff there. Let me get over now to the platform. Give me 1 second to pull that up. Oh, I already have it up here. Here we go. So let me sign into my nice account that I do my demo or do webinars on. I like Nadex account. All right, we are jumping in here. So platform shouldn't really be, shouldn't be new to anyone out there. And also, by the way, I think I forgot to mention, but if you do have any questions, if you do have any concerns, comments during the webinar, I do have them up here on my other screen to my right. So feel free to ask them, and I will answer any questions throughout the webinar. Kind of like I got the streamer set up over here with the chat running down. All right, so we'll jump right in here. I'll pull up. Let's go with an index here today. Actually, let's go with the forex contract. We can do pound dollar. Pound dollar's been ripping a little bit. Might have been ripping over a longer term period. We'll do a weekly pound dollar here. And so I'm going to also move all of this. So what I'm doing here, actually, let me go back over this. So if you ever want your chart to be, more of your screen, to taking up a larger portion of the screen, you can, minimize all these other panels on the side. So these double arrow panels, might be self-explanatory, but just so you know where they are, that I'm hovering over here. So if I hit this hide, it's going to drop away the ticket. If I hit these arrows, it's going to drop down that positions window, and then I can also hide the actual price ladder on the left-hand side with that button on the bottom there. So we have a nice big chart set up here. And if you do want to get the ticket back up, the easiest way to get the ticket back up from this view is going to be to click on the strike line price. But just for now, I'm going to hide this ticket so you can look at the full chart and all the glorious beauty there. So the first and foremost thing that everyone always wants to know when going over charts is how do I actually change my candlesticks? How do I change the time? How do I change how much of the chart is actually showing on the screen? So right now we are looking at that weekly binary, so the weekly expiration, and generally, right, with the weeklies, the strike widths are going to be a little further apart. So the strikes are going to be further apart from each other, and what that means on the charts, right? So you might want to, if you're doing a daily chart, you might want to be on 15 minutes. Maybe weekly, you want to be a little bit longer out so you can see, first of all, a few more of the strikes, as you can see on the right-hand side here, and you can see kind of an overall market movement for a little bit longer period of time because you are trading on a weekly option. And how I did that, so up in the top left corner here, you can change the interval. So if I just click on this in the top left corner, it's going to come down here and I have all the intervals that I can select. These intervals are, just go over it, these intervals are for the period that's shown actually on each individual candlestick. My dog is going crazy behind me, sorry for that. So it's going to be the ones that are shown on each individual candlestick. So right now this is selected to 1 hour, so each of these candlesticks is showing a 1 hour candle, as you can see kind of by the bottom here. You can see it's 9, 10, 11. And obviously you can go daily. Doing daily, you can see all of the strikes are going to look very close together. And if you get down to 1 minute, you're going to see one strike. So if you ever can't see as many strikes as you actually want to see on the chart itself, you can always change that interval there. So getting into sort of the nitty-gritty, some of the actual cool cool little features that I think a lot of people don't pick up on these charts. If you go over the intervals, you might see to the right. So I see 15 minutes right here where my mouse is. But if you look over to the right of that 15 minutes, you see these little grayed out markers. So this grayed out marker says 15. Then you see 30, you see 1H, 2H, all the way up to 1D. What these are hotkeys actually. So if I click back out of here, and I wish I could kind of show you my keyboard while I do this, but if you just start typing in, if you're selected on the chart and you start typing, so I can type 1. Oh, I can type. Sometimes it doesn't work with the number lock. Yeah, I don't know why. Sometimes it doesn't work with my number lock on the side, but it always works with that kind of top bar of numbers. So if I type in 1, you'll see, and it's actually a little hard to see in dark mode. It's something I'll actually talk to the devs about changing. So it's a little hard to see in dark mode, but you can see that it brings up this interval thing here. So right now it's set to 1, but if I start typing in 15, you can see it changes it to 15 here. If I were to hit enter right now, it's actually going to change my candlesticks to that 15-minute candle. So I think it's a little bit, it's something that's a little bit hidden away, but once you get good with it, once you get quick with it, you can very easily and quickly change your interval, change your candlestick times. So if you just start typing in, if I do 1 and don't put anything on the end, it's going to be minutes. But let's say I do 1 and then I put H on the end, that's going to change it to hours. So I can do 2H, right? I can also do 1D. And you can see that's changing it to daily. So if you put the D on the end, and I'm sorry, it's hard to, I'll highlight it because it's hard to see what I'm typing there. So you do 1D, it changes to daily. I can hit enter. I'm back to the daily candles. You can also do 1S. That's going to change it to your second. And the last one, I believe, is ticks. You can do 1T, or is it just, so 1T. And if you ever forget what these intervals are, the great part is we do have them here. So you can just say, okay, if I want ticks, I can go 1T, right? You can see it's 1T over here. I type in 1, I type in T, and now I can actually see my tick chart going. So while you're learning it, probably good to look back up here and see what it says. But after you actually get the hang of it, I actually use this quite a lot. If I'm just on here, I'll type in 1H and just get my hourly candles back up. So if I'm on a weekly, I'll do it that way just a little bit, so I don't actually have to be clicking on my mouse constantly. Do that straight from the keyboard. So there's your first of the kind of the tips and tricks of the little more hidden and depth stuff about our charts. You gotta be taking a sip of the coffee here. Keeps me going. I drink too much coffee in a day. So as we go over, we'll go over to the next thing. So that's really everything we have about the interval. As we go over here, we also have this little date range. It looks like a little calendar symbol. Looks like a little calendar symbol there. If you click on that, this is just going to be this is going to be the interval of the candle itself. The little calendar symbol here that says, what does it say when you hover over? The date range. This is just going to show, if I click this, it'll just show me 1 week worth of data. So I click this. Actually, I'm already on a week's worth of data here. But if I want to see 3 months, and actually 3 months generally doesn't work on, 3 months actually will work on these, but if you're on something with indices, so on Forex, you can usually look back 3 months, you can look back 6 months, you can see that period of data on the charts. If you're on indices or if you're on commodities, usually you're only going to be able to go back a month or two in the chart data, and that's going to be because those are contracts with an underlying that rolls over, right? So if you're ever trading the S&P 500, what you're really trading is a US 500 future, and you'll be trading, I think right now it's a US 500 future September contracts, right? So it's a September, the one that expires in September. When that one rolls over, the chart's actually reset. So if you're ever wondering about, you're on your chart, you want to look back, you're looking at the US 500, you want to look back to, January of this year, you probably won't be able to do that just because of those rollovers, because it's not actually the same underlying contract itself, right? It's always going to be the US 500 futures contract, but it's going to be a different front month. So there's another little tip there for why you may not see for the commodities and indices with something that the underlying is actually a futures contract. For Forex is obviously different because the underlying is Forex itself is a different, a feed of a bunch of banks that we get. and obviously not a futures contract. So moving on, coming across the top here, I'm going to go back to hourly real quick, just because I think it looks better. Moving across the top here. So generally, I actually to get to all of the charting features and functionality, I usually right-click. So you can see if my light up mouse, I actually right-click on the chart itself, and this is how I get to almost everything. Now, when you right-click on the chart itself, it actually doesn't have the interval and date range. So that's why I always show it here on the top left. But generally, I actually don't use that top left at all. I just use the hotkeys, and then I use the right-click method. And this is going to bring up everything that you have up here, but it's going to bring it up kind of in an easier to access way with the right-click and kind of overlaying the menu on the chart itself. But you can see, so we'll start with the indicators, but you can see this is indicators as well. So same exact menu here. I just like the right click. So as we can see, when we right click, we bring up this nice menu, and we have here all the indicators that you can overlay on the chart itself. Now I'm gonna first, when we're going through this, just go through all of the actual functionality. I'll come back a little bit later on. We'll go over just sort of a basic introductory primer into EMA and RSI. But just for right now, I'm gonna go through and sort of show more of the functionality of it. I will say, if you ever don't know what any of these are, right? Let's say that I usually use just RSI and I never use Bollinger Bands, and I don't really know what Bollinger Bands are at all, right? In this hypothetical, well, I can always hover here on this little information bubble, and this little information bubble is a very good kind of basic summary of what these are. It's not going to be your end all be all. You can always go Google a little bit or actually use the Nadex Learning Center for some of these to get a more in-depth explanation, but it does give you a nice little basic beginner primer for what these indicators are. So you can see Bollinger Bands, envelopes based on moving average and standard deviation, yada yada. You can read through all of this, say, oh, okay, I love Bollinger Bands, and you can click on them and overlay them on the chart. You can do that with any of the indicators here. Now, I think that's fairly self-explanatory. What a lot of people do miss, though, and I'll show this off a little bit later in the webinar as well, but a lot of people do miss is you can actually change and modify things like the period, things like the periods, things like the moving average, how much you want to weight it, that sort of thing. You can modify all these metrics with the chart itself. You can also change, the colors of your Bollinger Bands, and I think these are, I believe this yellow actually isn't the default. And to do that, so see when I actually, I'll hit this X. So see, there's nothing in the bottom left of my screen right now. If I go and put them back on again, you can see I have this little BOLL here in the bottom of my screen, bottom left corner. If I click on this directly, not on the X, but just anywhere on the BOLL 22, I'll bring up this sort of information panel here in front of me, and I can actually change things like, you can see the period, the standard deviation. So let's say that instead of a 20 period with 2 standard deviation, I wanted to look at 4 standard deviation, kind of double it up, and look back over a, 30 period metric there. And as you can see, that's actually ballooning out those Bollinger Bands very high. 22 is, a lot of the time the default is sort of the industry standard. I don't know if that's the best word, but a lot of the time the default is, it's a default for a reason, right? Because as you can see, as I change this to 34, I'm no longer not seeing, I'm not getting a good kind of tight tie to the actual chart itself. But there are reasons to change this if you are the kind of person that does want to change this sort of thing. And then as you can see here, I can change the colors. So let's say I want the upper band to be red, I want the lower band to be green, and the moving average, I like it blue, right? You can also change it so, the moving average could be a dotted line, it can be or dash dotted, it could be thicker. So you can change all of these metrics here, and you're going to be able to do this for every single indicator. And, you can do the fill, you can make that purple. You can't even see that. You can make that, can't see it in dark mode very well, but so you can change all of the metrics here, the colors, really set it up however you want. And then if you ever get too far gone, or maybe you moved it to 34 and you don't know what the defaults are supposed to be anymore, you can always hit reset the defaults, and there we go. We're back to that default, those default metrics there. hit apply. And if you do want to just take it away, an easy way to do that. So if I actually put a couple on here, let's say I put shock and volatility, and I put MACD, and I put, now this is really making it a daunting channel. So you can see here on all of these, you can click into all of them and mess with different metrics. You can also, though, all of them have this little X, X pretty self-explanatory, but an X to close out of them. If you hit the X on these right here, right, so I'm on this shock and volatility one. If I hit this X, it's going to close it out. MACD is going to close out that bottom. And then if I hit them on the ones that are actually overlaid on the chart itself, because some of them are overlaid below it, some of them are on the chart itself. So if I hit this on the Bollinger, takes off the Bollinger bands, takes off the Donchian channels. Yeah, that's sort of the in-depth, a little bit into how to actually manage your indicators, how to overlay them, how to overlay them, and how to actually change the metrics on each of them. So as we move forward here, we have the drawing. So it's fairly similar actually with the drawings here to the indicators. Now, you are also going to have your information bubble. So if you ever don't know what an arrow is, you can see that arrow there. It's an arrow, and you can click on that, and I can draw an arrow, right? So one thing about the drawings is you can draw them. So you'll see how I just clicked on an arrow, and you'll usually see once you've selected it, you can see I have a little, I don't know why I'm pointing at the screen. You guys can't see where I'm pointing. You'll have a little circle right under your mouse, and so you can click directly on, and it actually will snap to, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it did snap to the top of that. So it will snap to the chart itself, and I'll show you how to turn that on or off. And then you can pull it up here, and then you have this. And then once you actually do, overlay it, you can pull your drawings around, right? So you'll have this little hand, and you click, and I can move my arrow over here. So going back to the drawings, again, you can use the information bubble. It actually is helpful for some. I know I was joking about using it for arrows, but let's say you don't know what an Elliott wave is. Well, now you can see Elliott wave uses 5 3-wave patterns that can recognize financial markets, right? If you don't know what Fibonacci extensions are, etc., you can do that. Say, okay, you have the retracements. You can get your support and get support levels, retracement levels, and then I can apply my Fibonacci retracements like that. Again, I know I'm just clicking through these quickly, and I'm really not putting these on in any sort of way you would actually put these on, but just showing you sort of how to actually place these drawings on the chart itself. So going back to the drawings here, you also, so I was just saying, I showed you a little bit how that arrow, when I was kind of going over it, you can see that it's snapping if I'm getting close to the candles, to the top and bottom of the candlestick bar. It's actually snapping. I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but it's fairly apparent that when you're actually using it, that it's sort of going straight to either the high, low, or the bottom and top of the candles. So the high, low, open, or close. And so you can actually toggle that, right? So if I go back here, that's going to be snap to HLOC prices. So if I toggle that off, and again, it's kind of hard to show, but now you can see, like, as I'm getting close to it, it's no longer snapping to that top, right? You can kind of see, right? Before, when I was like here, it would just snap right down. Now it's not doing that. So if you do want to toggle that, I actually pretty much always keep it on. But maybe you're doing the drawing and it's snapping, and you don't want to snap, you can turn off the snapping. Down here at the bottom, you can delete all drawings. So if you click this, you can delete all the drawings, and it will give you this little drawings deleted, and it will allow you to undo it for, I forget how long this stays up, but it's a fair amount of time, especially if you hover over it, then it goes away. But you can actually undo the deletion of your drawings. One more thing here that I don't go maybe into too much depth, but I do like it in some of the other webinars I do, is this drawing toolbar. So you can show the drawing toolbar, and down in the bottom left corner now, I'm always going to have my drawing toolbar. So if you actually like to draw on your charts, a lot of you are always drawing channels, you're drawing retracement lines, you're drawing trend lines, support lines, resistance lines. I keep saying retracement lines. Resistance lines is what I mean. If you like drawing your support and resistance, that sort of thing, you can leave this up, and I would highly recommend that you do this. So you can do show drawing toolbar there, and now if I want to do my channels, I can do, I think I double clicked on that. I can actually do my channels like this, and we can see our nice channel that actually isn't really following that much. And you can see it doesn't actually deselect. So with this drawing toolbar, often you'll have to actually deselect it if you're actually using the drawing toolbar. But again, so I kind of like this when I am, drawing all over that, when I'm like, oh, here's support, resistance, right? When I'm actually drawing all over my charts, I will actually leave this up, and I can put my Gann lines on there, and I'm gonna delete this. If you wanted to get them all to go away, or get the drawing toolbar to go away, you can hit this X, and then again, to delete all your drawings, you can go in here and delete all drawings. And there we go. Moving on to the next bit here, we have our types. So I know I'll say the majority of people probably use the candlestick charts and don't really mess with it too much. And that is the default, and it is, the majority of almost everyone across everywhere uses is those candlesticks. However, we do have some other types here that you can use. You have your candlestick charts, you have your Fibonacci charts. So these are basically candle types or chart types. I guess it's a better way to say it. But Fibonacci is another candle type. If you aren't super familiar with it, again, I'm not going to go super in depth into what Fibonacci is, but very basically, it takes more of an average of your candlesticks. So it sort of, what it does is sort of smooths out those patterns, right? Because of how it takes the averages, and you can see that as I move over to it, right? So you have your regular candlesticks. We'll go back to it. It's much more choppy. You have a lot of up down. While the Fibonacci, you really get that smoothed out sort of trend of the markets. You do have sometimes on the bigger downturns, right? You'll have like a red candle between all these greens, but generally what happens is, you have these smooth kind of going up for a long time, a lot of green candles for a long time, then a lot of red candles for a while, because it does smooth out that calculation for the candlesticks themselves. If you do want to learn more about Fibonacci, I definitely encourage you to do that. Investopedia is always a good spot, and I don't think we actually have an article up on our site yet. But we should have one soon. So moving on here, you have your line chart, fairly self-explanatory. It's your line chart. I don't know if there's too much else that I can actually say about a line chart. You have your HLOC, right, where it's just a little bit different view of the candlestick, where, instead of actually having the body of the candlestick, then the body and the width of the candlestick, you sort of have the line, which is the entire, body plus wick. And then you have the sort of ladder steps. I don't know what the word is, but you have the ladder steps coming off. That is kind of the top and bottom of the body in your regular candlesticks. As you can see, right, you have your little lines, and this is where the top of the body would be. And then you have your wick above. You have your little line down here as well. That's where the bottom of the body would be on your traditional candlestick chart. And the last one here, we have our mountain. That's basically just going to be your line, but shaded. Again, this is sort of hard to go too in depth into the line and the mountain charts because they are fairly self-explanatory. For the rest of this webinar, I'm just going to shoot back over to the candlestick because I think that's what more people use. But always feel free to change up your type. Moving on here, we have our price. Now this one is interesting, right? So the price, unless you really have a reason to change this, I wouldn't change it. Well, actually, I'll go in depth into it. There's a couple reasons that you might want to change it, and I'll show you why. This will default to last traded, and you can see here. I don't know if you saw that. It's a very subtle change it's going to make on the charts, but it's actually a fairly large change when you get down to it, or it can be a fairly large change, and that's why I highly recommend people, unless you really know why you'd be changing it, to just leave it on last traded. And again, I will go a little bit into why you might want to change it. But what it's doing is it's showing you on the entire chart, the price that it's actually showing you is going to be that last traded price. Now, the last traded price, that is going to be, it's not going to be literally the last tick that comes in from the underlying market, right? Because what you actually see on these charts, this is where you're really getting the value here of this webinar, because what you actually see on these charts isn't actually the just straight up underlying price of the last tick or the last bid or the last offer of the underlying market, right? For Forex, it's a little bit closer, but for indices, it's a little bit farther off. So what you're seeing is you're seeing those prices of the underlying market, but you're also seeing them fed through the settlement calculation. So when all these contracts expire, right? When this, if we're on the weekly and we get to tomorrow at 3 o'clock when this contract's going to expire, it's going to go through the settlement calculation, right? So it's not when your binary options expire, it's not just that last tick. Like that's not what the expiration is, because bad actors could go and try to manipulate that, right? So what it actually does is it takes the for FX, it's going to take the last 10 seconds of data you get in, and let's say you get 100 ticks in the last 10 seconds of the contract, right before expiration. What it's going to do is it takes off the bottom 30 ticks, it takes off the top 30 ticks, and it averages that remainder, right? So what's happening on the actual chart? So that's how it actually settles at the end. But the chart is actually doing that every single second throughout the day. Every tick that goes on the chart, it's going through that calculation. And so that's what's going into the indicative price. That's why it's an indicative price. That's what's going into the charting. And so and let me actually bring up the ticket. And the reason I'm kind of going on this tangent right now, the reason why this is important is because when you do this last traded, first of all, what you're seeing is the last traded price from the underlying markets, the last actual data point, the last trade that was made in that underlying market. But you're seeing it actually go through that settlement calculation. And to actually have that line up with this indicative, because the indicative will actually always be that last traded price going through that settlement calculation, or it's generally that's it is that indicative data, right? But that's the calculation to get that indicative. If you change that to, like, let's say the ask, what can happen is, and you can see it here, right? This price no longer equals the indicative, because what you're changing this to is you're actually just seeing the ask of the underlying market, right? So you're just seeing the people that are on the sell side, yeah, that have put their offers out into the world. You're just seeing the offers on the underlying market, and that's why you're going to see a difference here between the indicative price and the charting price. If I go back to last traded, I don't know why I couldn't click that. If I go back to last traded, these are going to match up. And the reason I'm belaboring this point a little bit is because we, when I first started here, I was on the phones, that we would get a lot of people that I would chat to on the phones, that I would help with their accounts, that would call me and say, Adam, why in the world is my chart not showing the indicative? Something must be broken. What are you guys doing? You guys are messing with my trading. And that really comes from, I think, of it's almost always, I would say, what is your price set at? And it would be set to bid or ask or something. And so it just does cause that confusion. That's why I'm belaboring this point a little bit. It should default to last traded. I wouldn't change it to last traded unless you really know why you're doing it. But again, so if I go bid right now, it's showing me the bids of the underlying market. Now, one reason that you might want to do this after going into a whole diatribe about how you don't want to do that, but there are times where you might want to do this, and here is one of the times that I actually like to do it. So we're actually going to switch over the charts right now here real quick. So one of the charting options that we introduced somewhat recently, I mean, I think at this point it was like 3 or 7 months ago. So if you go up to this top right here, right? Many of you may know you can do the tear off chart. So if I hit this tear off chart, you can tear the chart off, and I'll often actually do this with a bunch of charts, right? I'll put my pound dollar, my euro dollar, and I put them all up on my screen next to each other. It's a nice little thing. I'll go into that more in a little bit, but the other option here, right, is switch to quick chart. So I'm going to hit this. And you'll see the first thing you might notice is, well, look, first of all, it looks completely different. Second of all, it took away the strike lines from the right side of the chart. So what this quick chart actually is showing, so generally, I'll go back and switch to default chart. The default chart is going to show you the underlying market, right? So this is the underlying market. This is the price of the pound dollar. You can see it's 138.256 right now. If I go over the quick chart, it's 15. Well, what is it showing? This is showing the actual charting price, the actual movement in the price of the binary option itself, right? So this is the history of this specific binary option, of the binary option 13875. So you can see it has a strike price. So I can look back now and say, okay, pound dollar greater than 13875. I can see, okay, so it was, all the way up here. It's sitting at, 41.75 back at this point, this Thursday. Actually, we're on the 5-minute chart, so earlier today. So you can see the entire history of the actual binary chart itself, and you can do all your stuff here. You can overlay your indicators. You can see what's the MACD here. So this is actually extremely helpful, and I know some of our traders really, really love using this, and it was a very heavily requested feature because it was on the old platform. It took us a while to sort of move it over and implement it. It actually was quite a difficult one to rebuild, surprisingly. But it does show you that underlying price. No, sorry, not the underlying price. It shows you the price of the option itself, of the binary option or the call spread or the knockout. You can see what the actual price of that was. Now it's a lot more useful on the binary because the call spread and the knockout, they're a lot closer to what the underlying is, right? The actual price itself. But for that binary option, because the underlying for, let's say, the S&P 500 is something like 3,100, but the price of the actual binary option itself will be 50. So because it is so far away, it is so far removed from the actual price of that underlying option, is very, very helpful here, I think. And sort of why I'm breaking this up along with the whole pricing angle is because now this is actually pretty useful, right? So I can still go last traded, and last traded is just going to be actually what was traded, and so you kind of get these. I actually don't really like using last traded on these, but if I go to mid. Now, mid is going to be actually a lot better here because this is actually going to give the midpoint price of these quoted prices, so you can actually see as this is going up and down. Or I can do, my ask price. Now, I can actually see the ask price, and now I think this actually makes more sense because it's going to tie back to my ask price up here. It's not moving one-to-one because, it is that little delay on the actual candlestick itself, but it does show that actual bid price when I have the bid selected. So this is where I generally switch up my types. I can go back to mid, everything. You can see the actual midpoint pricing here. So again, I know I've belabored this point for probably long enough now. But for the default chart, I would generally say use last traded. For the quick charts, I would say, use whatever you want. If you want to be looking at what was the ask side of the contract, you can change it over the ask side of the contract. You can change it over the mid, last traded, etc. So we're going to go back to the default contract right now. I did just want to go through that and how to access the quick chart itself because the quick chart I think is pretty important and a pretty cool feature. So we're going to go back to the default chart here. Just actually while we are on this, I'll show how I like to set up my my screen sometimes. So I can tear off this chart here. We have the pound dollar, and very quickly I'll pull up something else. I'll pull up Aussie, and why not? I'll tear this off. I know I'm going through this, but so on this top right, you click this and you hit tear off chart. And so now what I can do is, because a lot of people are like, well, I want to look at 3 charts, 4 charts. I'll very often on my second screen have a bunch of different charts set up. So I can do this, and this doesn't look super pretty because it's just on like my one really small screen, but I'll often have this kind of set up, and play around with it. But I'll often have many different charts up on my second screen so I can watch a lot of different markets and how they're moving at the same time. So that's just real quick. And if you ever are, so you can see sometimes these do get caught sort of behind that front screen, and you can kind of find them if you do that. So I'm going to exit out of that, but that's just another little quick pro tip, if you will. Let's go back to our pound dollar here. Yeah, let's go back to pound dollar because I like looking at pound dollar. We get some nice looking charts that fit very well into. This just looks nice when you have the daily selected here. So go back to 1 hour. I just like when the strikes are nice and equidistant. It's a little OCD thing. So moving on. So we went over the price, we went over it pretty much in depth. The too long didn't listen of that is just use the last traded if you don't know if you don't have a good reason to change it. If you ever do have the indicative not showing the same, the first place to check should be the price and change to last traded, because that should solve that issue, because I know it's something that I've heard from a lot of clients in the past, of traders in the past on this platform having that issue. Moving on, we have our scale. So I actually quite like this too. So scale, linear percentage, what does this mean? So you can see, if you watch the right-hand side of my screen here, where I'm moving up and down super fast, but this portion of the screen here, when I change that to percentage, that's going to change what we see here, and it's changing it to a percentage. What this is doing, and I actually like using percentage a lot, it actually takes so if I actually line this up, so it's going to take the top or bottom of the first candle that's on your screen and put it at 0%. So you can get an idea really quickly while just looking at the sidebar of how far the market's moved up or down during the sort of window that you're looking at, during the time period that you're looking at on your screen. So I can look at this and say, oh, okay, well, it's kind of covered up by this, but I can say, oh, okay, it's moved down, 0.25% from this point here, and I can see that very easily. So I actually, when I'm trading on this demo environment, I use the percentage scale probably a lot more than I use linear, but linear is just going to be the actual underlying market displayed on the right-hand side, while again, the scale is going to be that percentage. So just a couple of different options you can choose from again. Moving on down, we have our show menu bar. A lot of cool stuff in the show menu bar. I'll go through it somewhat quickly. So right now, and I think by default, everything is selected. Don't hold me to that 100%, but I'm 95% that on the default, on the show panel, everything's going to be defaulted, so selected here. We have our HLSC data. So HLSC data on the bottom, that's going to be what you see here. Sorry, not on the bottom left. It's going to be, so see how when I'm moving around, there's that box following with that last traded, the high, low, open, close change. If I deselect that, there we go, it's gone. I can put that back on, the box is back. Drawings, again, if I have a drawing here, you can actually select the drawings being on or off. So if I show drawings, hide drawings, remember, if you can't get your drawings to come up, look there. It's probably the first place to look. Indicators, again, if I put an indicator on and then I hide show indicators, right? We could go down to open positions, working order, strikes. So open positions, if I actually get into a position here real quick. So now I'm in a position. So see that on the chart itself, you see your open position here. And actually, while I'm here, let me put in a limit order. So so we can now see I have my open position here. My minus 250, that's my profit and loss. +1, that's the buy side. Above 13825, that's the strike. And then I again have my limit order. That's kind of, my working order, my limit order, that's grayed out. In this show panel, you can show or hide your positions, show or hide your working orders, and then this timeline down here, you can also show and hide. This is again going to be somewhere that the hotkeys come into play. So the hotkeys for this, for open positions, and again, always remember when you're learning these hotkeys, they are shown on the little, so it spells out post here, but they are shown on the menu themselves. So if I hit P, that's going to toggle, and let me move this. So you can see it actually tells you press P to show hide. So if I hit P, I can toggle my own positions. You can see that on the left side. If I hit O, that's going to toggle my working orders. There you go. If I hit T, that's going to toggle the strike line at the bottom. There we should be seeing that. And then this is actually something else we added here fairly recently. I'm going to take this off. So these strike lines, you can actually now hide them. So you can hit S and hide the strike. So I actually quite like this because, you know, it can get pretty pretty darn busy if you go. Let's look at like daily. So, you know, if I have all my strikes showing, you have a lot of them showing, right? I can hit S and it just shows my selected strike. And again, you can always do this from the show bar itself. I like using the hotkeys, so I can hit S. I can toggle my. Sorry, I don't want to give any of you guys you know, any strobe effect here, but so I can hit S and toggle my strike on and off. So that's pretty useful, and that again is a new feature as we toggle the strike on and off. I do have a question here. Will this webinar be posted on YouTube or the Netx website? Yes. All of our webinars are always posted on the Nadex YouTube channel. So this one might be a little bit delayed because I know the person that actually usually posts these is out currently. So this one might not be up till next week. I'll work on getting it up pretty soon after. Generally, it's up like same day, but because that person that usually posts them is out right now, might be a little bit delayed. But yes, this will eventually be up on the Nadex YouTube channel. And we actually might even put it on in the Learning Center. If there's enough demand for something like this, this is one of the first ones I'm doing that just goes over the charting functionality. So we're going to move back to our 1 hour so we don't have this really messy chart here. So that's the show. Moving on down, we have our price changes. So you'll see in the bottom left corner right here, we see our price changes. You can see the high, the low for the day, and the high, the low for the entire period, right? So you can see these numbers are the high and the low for the entire period showing on your screen. And these are going to be the high and the low for today's candlestick. You can see the change in percentages as well. And again, to hide those, you hit the price change, and then you have the price line. So a little bit hard to see, but let me try to get away from this. So see this line here that's going to come off the side of the actual price on the right-hand side of the screen. The price line there. So see that little blue line? That's what that is. So you can toggle that on and off as well. Hopefully you guys can see that going on and off. I try to toggle this so everyone can like see it showing up on their screen because I'm not sure how well this comes through sometimes. We are almost near the end of all of the menu options here. Going on to our layout. So let me put a couple indicators on here so I can show you, like let's do Bollinger Bands and let's do directional movement. If I have this layout, and let's say I always have this layout, I always want to apply a certain layout, a certain set of indicators to every single chart that I use, I can go ahead and I can save my layout. I'll save it as Adam Super Cool Layout. And I could save that, hit enter. Now, when I go to, let's say I remove these, and you know, let's say I'm getting on, and let's say this is $1. I'm not going to change the market right now, but I can go over to the S&P 500, sorry, US 500, the Tech 100. I can apply, and I say, okay, well, I want my, I don't remember what I selected, the Bollinger Bands, I think, in the directional movement. Let's say I want Adam's Super Cool Layout on here. I can hit this, I can hit apply. And you can see it's going to overlay those Bollinger Bands and the directional movement indicator. So very useful if you're the kind of trader that has your certain kind of setup that you always like using all the time on your charts. So I'm going to take that off. You can also, so you can save them here, you apply them here, and you can see there's a lot of different ones. I have a ton saved on this account because I make up a new one every time I do this. And then you can hit delete. And let's say that I no longer want Adam's Super Cool Layout. I want to say goodbye, Adam's Super Cool Layout. There we go. And it's not going to show up in the apply anymore. Again, pretty self-explanatory. Not going to spend too much more time on that. Moving on here. We have our customized appearance. So what this is going to do, and you can change this for candlestick, your Fibonacci line, and you can see here as well, you can change your types from this screen, but if you go to customize appearance, you can customize the appearance of the chart. It sounds exactly like what it does. You have your rising bodies here, so if I want these to be yellow and I want my falling bodies to be purple, go Tigers. I didn't go to LSU, but I went to Tulane right next door. And my unchanged bars, you know, I put them as whatever I want them to be. So you could change the colors of your candlesticks here. You can also show the grid. So see this grid that's overlaid in the background. I'll change it to a really bright color so you guys can all see it. If I remove the grid, there we go, the grid's gone. Click it, grid's back. I can also show the watermark. So what that watermark is going to be is in the background, you can see this is a pound-dollar contract. So it'll put that pound-dollar watermark on the back of the chart itself. And you can customize your appearance. So as you can see, this just changed it for the candlestick. Fibonacci still is going to be like this, although it does show the grid and the watermark. You can, you know, remove the grid, remove the watermark. You can reset it all to defaults and apply your settings. So fairly self-explanatory. Once again, if you know, you can also make these thicker. You know, you can set up your charts in any way that you want to trade. Moving on down to the last thing on the menu here, we have our export charts. And export chart, it's just going to bring up a picture. Now, my actual download has been kind of weird lately, so let me pull my downloads. Generally, what that should do, though, is bring it up at the bottom of your screen, and then you can download it, and it actually just exports a picture. Sorry, my downloads have been weird, but usually it's going to like actually just export a little picture of your chart itself. Very useful for if you want to save a certain setup, or if you maybe you're seeing something weird on the platform itself and you want to send it over to customer service because they're asking you for you know, a little bit more information on whatever issue you're having. You can also export the chart in that way, and it gives you a nice little chart that you can save. Sometimes a little bit better than a screenshot. So that's going to be the entire sort of menu here. There are a couple more buttons on the top here as we go across. And so we have our zoom in, zoom out. I usually just do this with my actual mouse, zooming in and zooming out, as you can see here. There we go. Zooming in and zooming out there. So, you know, nothing too crazy there. This little button, though, is something that I think is somewhat important, and I think a lot of people don't really know what it does. So, on its base, what it will do is it just goes to the most recent charts. If you're all the way back here, it's just going to take you to the most recent candlestick, right? It's going to take you up to this most recent candle. I know, man. My dog is really wanting some attention. I'll show him here to y'all at the end if you want to see him. So it shows the most recent candlestick. It's going to be using this. But the sort of cool part of this is, so let's say I move my chart up here, and here, I'll show this at first. So see as I zoom in, so see if I scroll in and out, the framing of the chart is zooming in and zooming out to show you the entire chart in the frame of the image, right? And I'll show you what I mean by this when I move this. So if I like grab this and just move it away, now when I zoom in and zoom out, it's no longer zooming my screen to fit the whole chart, right? So to get that sort of, I'll call it auto zoom to resume on the chart, if you hit this button, yes, it's going to take you back to the most recent candle, but it's also going to turn that auto zoom back on. So as you scroll, again, it zooms out, and I'll show you again as I pull this down. So what turns the auto zoom off, if you pull away from the chart, the auto zoom kind of turns off, and so now I don't see it. And so, you know, maybe you're all the way down here, you can't even find your chart anymore. You can hit this, it's going to take you all the way, going to make sure that the most recent candlestick is on the screen, and it's also going to turn the auto zoom back on. So just a little bit of a trick there. And that is going to be most of what's on the menu itself. I did say we're going to go over Rsi and Ema quickly in this, but we'll still go over it quickly. I do want to leave a little bit of time for questions, and I also do want to show all of you stuck around to the end one of the new features that we're going to have coming out here very soon. I'm going to show it on sort of a flag on another part of the platform. That's because it's not actually fully out yet, fully released yet. So we'll go over super quickly Rsi and Ema. So Ema is going to be your exponential moving average. And if you ever want to know, you can get a little blurb here. But basically, what it does is, so if any of you know what a moving average is, basically it's just taking the number of periods, averaging them out, and so you can actually see it's sort of giving you an average, average of what's been happening back to a certain period, back 10 periods, 20 periods, you know, however many candlesticks or whatever candlestick duration you have set on your chart itself. What the exponential moving average does is it has a coefficient in the actual calculation of the moving average that weights it towards the more recent periods, right? So the moving average is just going to say, let's say you have a moving average and you're taking the last 10 periods. The simple regular moving average is going to say, you know, the period 10 days ago is going to be given just as much weight as what just happened yesterday. And as you talk through that, you could see why that might not be that useful, right? Because what happened 10 days ago might not be that useful to what's actually happening in the market as what happened yesterday. So that's where the EMA comes in. It does have that weighting, so it weights it more towards the front. So what happens yesterday does affect what's happening on these lines a little bit more than what happens 10 days ago or at the end of the period. In this case, we have the 20, 50, 100. So 20 periods ago, 50 and 100 periods ago. So it is this momentum indicator. So as you can see, as sort of the chart trends up, trends down, you can see the actual moving averages trend up, trend down as well. And you can also see these the moving averages that are shorter are going to move a lot more, are going to be a bit more volatile, right? They're going to be more sensitive to the actual chart movement itself. So we have our EMA here, and it's set up to the default is 20, 50, 100. So you can see this is a 20 period up here, this kind of blue line. So that's just looking over the last 20 candlestick periods, so 20-hour long periods. You have your 50, and again, you can see on the box there, you can see what the EMA is and the calculation for it. So you can see this is a 50 period and 100 period. Again, I know I'm blasting through this quick, but I just don't want to get to everything. You can change the colors here, but you can see here, and you can also change period. So let's say, and you can also put more on as well. So I could put a 300 period on and apply it, and now that 300 period is there. Going back in, so 20, 50, 100, a lot of times that's what's like a 20 or 100 period. A lot of times that's what's used for longer, like when you're doing analysis over a longer term period. Often when you're doing short-term analysis, what sort of, again, I use industry standard terms a lot, but often what people use is 12 and 26 periods. So 12 and 26 is pretty standard, and you can use this. There's a lot of interesting things you can do with this, but this is, again, just a very basic primer to what EMA is. But I will say, so 12 and 26 is a fairly standard for exponential moving average as well. And I actually want to say, if you look at the MACD, that is going to be, we're just going to look at the MACD super quickly because I think those are the default periods for MACD. Yeah, so if for MACD, again, I'm not going to go that much into depth with MACD, but you can see 12 and 26 here. That's going to be 12 and 26 day moving averages. And you can see that's default there because it's a little bit more shorter duration is what you're looking at with the MACD, which stands for moving average convergence divergence. Going on to RSI quickly. I know we're getting right up into an hour here, so I want to finish this up here quickly. And I know some of y'all probably got to go do other things today. RSI is another indicator I like. It's one of those that sits underneath the bottom of the platform, the chart itself, and not on the overlaid on the chart. RSI will give you indicators of oversold and overbought. So you'll see here you have the 70-30 periods, and again, I'm not going to go super into how the calculation of RSI, but very generally, what RSI is called the relative strength index. That's what the RSI stands for, and what the sort of high line what RSI is it gives you overbought and oversold ranges. So if basically if it's above the 70 metric here, which is going to be this line here, which is often used for overbought and oversold, it's giving you an overbought signal, And generally, now this is not a recommendation to do anything, but generally what an overbought signal is telling you is that we're looking for a down trace once you hit actually this overbought period. We're looking for a down trace, a reversal, a downward trend, and so you might want to enter into a downward. Again, not a recommendation. This is just generally what you want to do for these sort of strategies. And again, for the this could be oversold here at the bottom. So when it goes below this 30 period, generally what you're going to be looking for is a reversal to the upside when you do have a dip below that. That is going to be what you're looking for. But as you can see, it's not always going to be like a perfect. It doesn't mean if it goes below 30 that it's just going to go straight up forever, right? So using indicators with other indicators is always a good way to actually find entry and exit points. And then also with RSI, so 70-30 is pretty standard, but let's say you really want to be sure that you're hitting an overbought, oversold level. Sometimes I'll change it to 80-20, and now you can see we don't actually have any on this chart. So if you want to say, okay, I only want to get it if it's really overbought, you can change it to 80-20 and wait for it there. So I know that was a very, very quick explanation of Rsi and Ema. I kind of blew through it, but I kind of blew through that very quickly there. For the very last part of this, for those of y'all that stuck around to the end, I do want to show a brand new feature that we have coming out here, and I'm going to switch over. So this is not live yet, but it will be live here again, probably. I want to say next week. And so as you can see, this is actually sort of one of the test accounts we have on our side. You can see I have a whole other category up here of test markets. So let's go into, I'll click into, we've done a lot of forks today. We'll go into, let's do the US 500, or we'll do Tech 100. We'll do the NASDAQ here. Let's go to, I guess that doesn't matter. I'm not even looking at the charts. So we have here our max ROI and our probability ITM or in the money features. So this is going to be a brand new feature that, again, we're going to be releasing here in the next week or so. And what this is going to be showing is, first of all, for a contract that you get into, it's going to be showing your maximum possible return on investment. So let's do this, and we can. And if anything's buggy with this, we are still testing it. It shouldn't be. We've been testing this for a while. I'll hover over that in a second. But as you see, as I move this up and down, it does change the maximum ROI that I can get, right? So if I get into a contract at 20, and this does do this with, it does do this with fees included. Is this just doing it with the market right now? Yeah, I think it's just doing it with the market pricing. So we can see, though, if I get into this contract, basically I'm going to be paying $84 to get in. My maximum profit's going to be $100 minus a $2 fee, right? This is super quick, but I pay $84 to get in. I am going to get out $100 minus that $2 fee. So the max really return on investment, if this contract expires in my favor, is going to be about $14, right? So 16 from 100 minus 84 is going to give you 16, minus 2 is going to give you $14. And basically what this is doing is it's giving you that $14 over the price you paid to get in. So 14 divided by 84 gives you that maximum return on investment. I know I just threw a lot of calculation words at you, but very basically, again, this is giving you how much that you can actually return on an investment that you're putting in. Obviously, if you are in a contract that's closer to, down here at the bottom, you're going to have these wildly massive max ROIs, right? And you might be saying, oh man, 1,000% max ROI. Well, why would I do anything else other than that, right? That's what I want to do. I want to get a maximum ROI, max ROI of 1,000%. Well, that's just where the probability and the money comes in a little bit, right? So you're in the money probability of this. So you do have the max ROI. So if this ends up in the money, if this ends up expiring in your favor, yeah, you're going to get 1,000% return on this on an $8 investment. but the probability that that happens is only 5%, right? So you'll see that as this kind of probability goes down, the ROI is going to go up, and as the ROI goes down, the max probability in the money is going to go up. Now, where does this probability in the money calculation come from? Well, it's actually just going to be the midpoint of the bid and offer, the buy and sell prices for the binary option, right? And excuse me, the reason that we sort of see this this in the money probability is because you can sort of look at a binary option because it's priced out of $100, and the market is saying, okay, this is priced, you know, the sell side's priced, let's say it was priced at 2, the buy side's priced at $8. You can say, okay, the midpoint of that is going to be your $4 there, or your, you know, right now it's $4.75. The midpoint of those two is going to be the probability that that expires in your favor, right? Because it's priced out of 100, you can sort of say, okay, the market thinks this should be 4 out of 100. That's your sort of probability that this expires in your favor. So I think this will be helpful, and as you can hover over this, and it gives you a very long explanation, basically the explanation I just gave you, and it will tell you, you know, what you should be looking at here. But we put this in because I think this is very important to binary option trading, specifically to binary option trading. This is incredibly important. And I think it's something that gets overlooked sometimes, especially by traders that are a little bit newer to the exchange. So we did want to put this in just to show this relationship, right? Show this relationship between your max ROI, because I've talked to a lot of people that are like, okay, well, if I put 20 bucks in, well, I can put 20 bucks in and I can make $100. I can make an $80 profit off of 20 bucks. That's like a 400% return. That's fantastic. Why would I not do that every time? Well, one reason you might not want to do that is because the probability that that outcome happens is only going to be about 20%, right? If we do go to something that's, well, closer to 20. You know, so the probability that a 400% return happens around that is only about 16%. So as you see, as you sort of click up this ladder, the ROI goes down, and the probability you get that ROI goes up. And so that's sort of there, and you get into the whole risk reward situation, right? As you risk more, your reward, or sorry, a riskier investment, you know, one that has less probability of expiring in your favor, is going to give you a bigger reward for that expiring in your favor. But at the same time, there's that bigger risk that you lose your entire investment. While in a binary option that costs $89, yes, you're going to be putting up $89. You're not going to be able to get as large of a payout in the event that it does expire in your favor, but the probability that that expires in your favor is going to be much greater. So that's going to be a new feature that is coming in here very soon into the platform. I'm sorry, my dog is just attacking me right now. This is going to be the end of the webinar here. Thank you so much. I know we did go a little bit over time. I talk forever on these things. I'll leave this up on the screen here quickly. Actually, I'll put this up in, and if you guys have any questions here at the end, I'll stay around for a couple minutes so you can ask them. I'll also put on the all of our Trustpilot and everything. So our social media person always wants me to show you these this Trustpilot. Also, here's my dog. This is Gus. You can see him at the very end here. He's been going crazy, wanting to play. So we're probably gonna do a little playing during lunch here over the next few minutes. But this is Gus. He's the Nadex dog, or my dog really. But he does come to webinars sometimes. So this is going to be, if you do want to contact us, customerservice@nadex.com. If you do like everything we're doing here, it really helps us if you leave a Trustpilot review, and these are going to be all of our socials. Again, I'll stick around a couple more minutes if there's any more questions, any more comments, concerns, anything. I don't really see anything coming in. I do just want to make sure. The one question we had earlier, yes, this will be up on our YouTube channel. If not today, it might be delayed just because the person that we have here that usually does that is out of office, but it will eventually be up. All right, I don't see really any more questions coming in. Yeah, man, I know you like looking at my ears. I don't see any more questions coming in, so I'm going to end the webinar here today. Thank you all for coming, hanging out with me for the last hour or so. I hope I went over something that was helpful to all of you. I know this was a sort of long and nitty-gritty, in-depth webinar, but I hope it did help some of you out there. And as always, best of luck in your trading, and stay safe out there. I know the world's opening back up, but we're always living in weird times, right? Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Good luck in all your trading.